Hello, my name is Cledoverne Brevner. I work as a specialist doctor in obstetrics and gynecology. I was asked to talk about stress and its impact on human health. I see daily the impact stress can have on the human body and its outcome. And I work in a very traumatic, high paced environment, interacting with patients at some very vulnerable times, sometimes traumatic events in their lives. To begin with, our body has its very quite unique defense mechanism, and stress is one of those. So let's define the term really. What is stress? And it's simply your body's reaction to feeling threatened or under pressure. When we are stressed out or under, our body would release a hormone, namely adrenaline, which we call the flight or fight hormone. And this gives us a boost or motivates us to act quickly. You also have release of other hormones like cortisol. And whilst little stress can be a good thing, as it can motivate us to meet deadlines, help us to focus on something that needs attention, too much stress is not good. Too much release of these hormones over sustained periods can have an effect on your body and also relationships, especially when it makes you feel out of control. It can make us feel anxious, irritable, and even affect our self esteem. Experiencing long term stress or severe stress can lead to feeling physically, mentally, and emotionally exhausted, what we call burnout. The things that cause stress, we know it can vary from person to person, and how you deal with the challenge, again, it varies. 1 in 5 Americans would experience extreme stress in their lives, and about 44% report feeling more stressed than they did 5 years ago. 3 out of 4 visits to the doctor are from stress related ailments, and some researchers believe that stress is the basic cause of 60% of all human illnesses. It can manifest itself as different symptoms, and you'll see different signs. For example, physical symptoms include stomach problems, stress headaches, and even muscle pains and aches. Skin reactions like stress rash, hives, or even feeling dizzy, faint, or sick if you're known to have anxiety brought on by stress. Sometimes stress can cause high blood pressure and chest pain, but these symptoms usually go away once the stress goes. So, risk of heart disease and stroke. What's the best antidote? The word Sabbath literally means rest, and this is what I believe God intended when he said in Mark 2:27, the Sabbath was made for man and not man for the Sabbath. It was when God created the Sabbath, it wasn't an effort to make our lives miserable or feel useless as some may think. Quite the contrary, the Sabbath is intended to rejuvenate our minds, bodies, and spiritual lives through worship and rest. I would just like to give a little bit of literature. Amazingly, there have been studies where authors have articulated mental health benefits of Sabbath keeping. For example, the Dams et al. 2004 and Goldberg 1986 have shown that Sabbath keepers experience psychological benefits in empirical studies. Sabbath keeping was significantly correlated with mental health in a mediational analysis by Superville et al. In 2014. And although other studies have not shown a relationship between Sabbath keeping and physical health, several have suggested a positive relationship between Sabbath keeping and better mental health. Where they have found significant bivariable relationships between keeping Sabbath and indicators of better mental health in that regular Sabbath keepers were less likely to have scores qualifying for depression, anxiety, and burnout, and were more likely to have scores qualifying for flourishing mental health. Sometimes we think of the Sabbath only in a religious context and forget the simple fact that God also wants us to be physically refreshed as we cease working on the Sabbath day. Our bodies are intimately connected to our minds. Stopping our weekly work routine helps us recover and relieves us from the mental stress of living in a relentlessly busy world. Studies show that people who keep the Sabbath experience dramatic decreases in rates of coronary artery disease. For example, according to research by National Geographic, regular Sabbath keepers outlive their American counterparts by up to 10 years. Among the clear reason is their practice of keeping the Sabbath rest, where they respect God's commandment as written and reap the benefits. So Sabbath and physical rest is very beneficial. Sabbath also is beneficial to our mental health, as I've stated before. And how is that so? By helping us to free our minds from the normal cares of life. The Sabbath provides relief from the constant stresses and anxieties that drain our mental powers and covers our brain and cause our brain to function less efficiently. For example, interestingly, France once attempted to change the 7-day cycle, weekly cycle, to what they thought was a more logical decimal-based system known as the Republican calendar. New months were invented and a 10-day week was instituted. However, this attempt at reason actually caused extreme stress and chaos and was quickly abandoned. Apparently, our brains too have a built-in clock needing downtime every 7 days. And there are various other models, for example, in countries such as Sweden and Norway, they actually have stipulated laws where they would discourage working hours over a 40-week hour. And guess what? This society is more productive. Yeah, think about it. After a long work week, we can all use a little physical recreation. But when we put the demands of the world first all the time, when we put the demands of work first all the time, we often put aside rest, physical rest, mental rest, and forget that God told us to remember to keep the Sabbath day holy. And you may think you have so much to do that you can't keep the Sabbath without your world falling apart. But trusting God and doing what He commands will always result in a blessing for you. You know, the Bible is full of examples of those who remembered God's fourth commandment and They reaped the benefits to both physical and mental rest. We have Moses, King David, the apostles, and Jesus Christ as our examples. The Sabbath is a time to break away from occupation, from your worries, from your regular activities, and to be in communion with God, to foster relationship with Him. It also gives you an opportunity to spend time with your family and friends, worshiping together, going out in nature, to share your faith, to witness and seek God. Your spirit and minds would be renewed and your body rested and refreshed. You will become infused with hope and energy. To conclude, I would like to say taking a Sabbath rest is also an act of faith. It's a reminder that no matter what we do, God is in control. Because if you were to look at the normal worldview, it would be that you're actually working one less day. It might be your most quote unquote lucrative day of the week, when you should be out there conducting business. However, when we walk with obedience to God, He's always faithful to bless us. When we cease from pursuing our material goals, you are saying to God, I trust you to maintain control of my life and provide for my needs 7 days a week, even if I only work for 6 of them. It's your Sabbath. It's our Sabbath, our rest in Christ. God made it for us, and if you love Him, you will keep it because it's one of His commandments. Love without obedience is not love at all, according to 1 John 2:4. So God asks us to love and obey Him by enjoying the blessings of the Sabbath.